On the 15th of April, 1985, two fighters met at Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas. What followed lasted less than 8 minutes, but it changed boxing forever. Known simply as The War, the fight is still regarded as the greatest fight the sport has ever seen. Two men, no retreat, just violence. Both fighters were extraordinary, but only one of them was prepared for what happened. Thomas Hearns trained for a boxing match. Marvin Hagler always trained for war. His training camps are stuff of legend, isolated and almost mythical. Even by the most extreme standards, they were insane. The most dangerous thing about Marvin Hagler was how little anyone knew him. Today, we're looking at the last warrior, Marvin Hagler. Marvin Hagler was born on the 23rd of May, 1954, or at least that's what the records say. Even something as simple as his birthday would later be wrapped in mystery, fitting for a man whose life would be shaped by myth. Hagler grew up in extreme poverty on the streets of Newark, New Jersey. Raised by a single mother along with 5 siblings, his childhood was defined by instability, fear, and violence. Some of Marvin's earliest memories are not of school or play, but of the 1967 Newark race riots. At just 13 years old, he spent 3 days hiding beneath a bed as gunfire echoed through the streets and his family home was burned to the ground. The world had already taught him one lesson very clearly. No one was coming to save him. In 1969, aged 15, Marvin was introduced to boxing, not in a gym, but in the street. He was beaten up badly by a local boxer named Donnell Wigfall, who finished the humiliation by taking Hagler's jacket. As you'll later learn, Marvin Hagler would have his revenge on Donnell. For most boys, that would have been the end of the story, but for Marvin Hagler, it was the beginning. The very next day, he walked into a boxing gym, unaware that it was the same gym that Donnell trained in. He left just a week later, but fate would guide him to the Petronelli gym, run by brothers Pat and Goody Petronelli. For the first time in his life, Hagler had found structure, but due to his experiences as a black child in pre-civil rights America, Hagler himself was deeply racist and suspicious of white people. When the Petronelli brothers introduced themselves, Hagler stated, "I don't touch white flesh." It was the patience, loyalty, and genuine care of the Petronelli brothers that broke through those walls, transforming raw anger into controlled ferocity. To enter amateur competitions, Hagler needed to be 16, so he lied, claiming he was born in 1952 instead of 1954. But even when disadvantaged by 2 years, Marvin Hagler would prove one thing. He was built for war, and the whole world was about to find out why. Inside the Petronelli gym, Marvin Hagler didn't talk much. He didn't need to. He wasn't trying to be liked, he was trying to survive. By the end of his amateur career, Hagler had compiled a record of 55 wins and just 1 loss. In 1973, Marvin Hagler turned professional, and immediately he learned another hard truth. Professional boxing isn't fair. Joe Frazier infamously told Hagler, "You have 3 strikes against you. You're black, you're a southpaw, and you're good." Hagler wasn't flashy. He didn't smile for the cameras, and he didn't sell himself. And in an era that had just witnessed the prime of Ali, personality mattered more than pedigree. For years, Hagler was ignored. He fought anyone, anywhere, and often on 2 weeks' notice. He fought veterans, he fought prospects, he fought men no one else wanted to fight. And he beat them, again and again and again. Among his early victories, he beat his childhood foe, Donnell Wigfall, twice. By 1979, Hagler had 49 professional fights in just 5 years. He finally received a shot at the world middleweight title. By then, he wasn't just a contender, he was something far more dangerous. The champion was Vito Antuofermo. The fight was close, grueling, brutal. Hagler pressured forward relentlessly, landing the hardest shots, controlling the tempo, and breaking the champion down, round by round. When the final bell rang, many believed Marvin Hagler had done enough. The judges did not. The fight was declared a draw. In Las Vegas, the message was clear. Marvin Hagler would have to be perfect, because close was never going to be enough. From that night on, Hagler made a vow. He would never leave his fate in the hands of the judges again. In 1980, Hagler finally got another shot at the title, this time against Alan Minter in London. The atmosphere was hostile, violent, and dangerous. Hagler dominated Minter, stopping him in 3 rounds to become the undisputed middleweight champion of the world. Instead of celebration, the ring erupted into chaos. Beer bottles, chairs, and debris rained down from the crowd. Hagler was rushed from the ring, bloodied and furious. Later he summed it up simply: "I didn't even get a chance to enjoy winning my title." After this fight, he changed his name legally to Marvelous Marvin Hagler. If the world wouldn't respect him, it would be forced to remember him. Whilst the rest of boxing chased comfort, Marvin Hagler chose isolation. Each training camp, he disappeared to Cape Cod, Massachusetts, a quiet, windswept stretch of land. There were no casinos, no nightclubs, and no distractions. Only cold air, long roads, and silence. He lived simply, often in a small, sparsely furnished house, sleeping on a hard bed, eating plain food, and avoiding anything that softened the edge that he had spent a lifetime sharpening. Every morning before dawn, Hagler ran, through fog, through wind, and through freezing rain. Locals would see him moving along the empty roads, shadowboxing as he ran, a solitary figure in the mist. If his opponents trained 8 weeks, Hagler trained 12. If they rested, he ran more. Inside the gym, the work was merciless. Endless rounds of sparring that would break most men long before the fight arrived. The Petronelli brothers understood what Cape Cod represented. This wasn't just preparation, it was purification. The philosophy was simple. If training was hell, the fight could only be easier. And it showed. On fight night, whilst opponents struggled to breathe, Hagler looked untouched, stalking forward with the same pace he'd set in the opening bell. Cape Cod wasn't a location, it was a weapon, a place where Marvin Hagler turned solitude into strength. Whilst others prepared to win, Hagler prepared to suffer. And in boxing, the man most willing to suffer is the man who always lasts. Forged by the chaos of Cape Cod, what followed was one of the most brutal championship reigns in boxing history. Hagler destroyed contenders with ruthless efficiency, powerful attacks, relentless pressure, and an iron chin. He didn't just beat opponents, he broke them. Then came Roberto Duran. Duran was the first challenger to last the distance with Hagler in a world championship bout. Even still, Hagler outboxed him and outsmarted him. Then came Thomas Hearns. On the 15th of April, 1985, 2 men met in the centre of the ring and unleashed hell. No feeling out, no defence, just violence. Hearns broke his hand, Hagler absorbed everything, and in the 3rd round, he ended it. It would become the greatest fight ever filmed. And finally, Sugar Ray Leonard. On the 6th of April, 1987, Marvin Hagler faced Sugar Ray Leonard. Leonard came out of a brief retirement for the fight, or so people thought. Unknown to Hagler or the media at the time, Leonard had secretly engaged in 4 warm-up bouts. Leonard had these bouts in private and came away from them with a record of 4-0 with 2 KOs. On the night, Hagler stalked, Leonard flurried. The fight was close. But as we know, Hagler could never afford to be less than perfect. Sugar Ray Leonard was declared the winner. It was another injustice. This time, Marvin Hagler had had enough. He walked away from boxing immediately. No comeback, no farewell tour, and no goodbye. He left as he lived, on his own terms. Marvin Hagler never needed boxing to define him. Boxing was simply the arena where he expressed what he already was. He was a survivor, a man forged by hardship and sustained by will. In an era of showmen, he was a soldier. And this is why, long after the belts faded and the noise died down, Marvin Hagler is remembered as the last warrior.